Brand.
Mhm.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ahead of the Curve. Today, I've got my guest, Tracy Osterman, with me from One More Sponsor. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So how are things in your neck of the woods these days?
Deep breath, deep breath.
One breath at a time.
Yes, put it this way, I am resilient, and so is my team. It's been a year, really. It's been a tough year. It's been a year of stepping up the creativity game and learning about technology and just
Yeah, I mean,
helping clients.
you've been on the show and a huge supporter week after week, which has been awesome.
Thank
It,
you. I
it
love
would,
it.
it would be great to hear actually some of your insights that you've had, maybe some of the things that some takeaways that you've actually had from the show.
Oh, okay. I'd
Just for
say,
fun.
yeah, no, I'd say that it's been amazing to see the caliber of people that are mostly working behind the scenes, right? With artists and technology and events and my hospitality tribe, and it's been really amazing to not feel alone in the work that we do, especially now being virtual and not being able to see people in person. I think you would agree with me that to not be able to see 40,000 people or 100,000 people on one of our events in New Orleans and having to do this all virtual, I mean, it's a different type of energy. So trying to recreate that engagement has been, for me, very nerve-wracking. Like, I'm nervous enough in person when I can fix things and facilitate and have a whole team. So it's really been about putting myself out there and being really uncomfortable, and having to test things that I'm not comfortable with and just move forward and try new things in terms of software and platforms. And, I've asked you, what do you recommend for this small conference that I have coming up in August? It's a small association, or, it's a big festival. So it's been a learning curve. Absolutely. And in a good way, my clients all see me as an amazing resource. And in a bad way, they all see me as an amazing resource. So I have been spending.
You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
I've really just been putting my heart and soul into being there for my clients, and they've been really supportive of me. But I would say our workload is tripled, and our revenue is, I would say, at about 25%.
Wow. Yeah, it's been a crazy year, as you know. We've been talking about it week after week, and it's definitely been a transitional time. I'm trying to navigate away from using the word pivot because it's just been used so much.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been a transitional time for so many people and so many companies like yours that just got hit pretty hard from live events coming to a screeching halt, so quickly. It was quite an impact, I think, just for everybody. And it's kind of amazing to see how much it's rippled through, from
Absolutely.
one part of the industry to the next. So it's been pretty wild.
Absolutely. Yeah. I sometimes have to remind myself that, things will improve. Just come to work every day, do the best we can, support each other. We will get back to some type of in-person connection, but for now, we just have to be really creative and, do virtual. I mean, last year at this time, I was working with the Annapolis Film Festival, and we were ready to go, ready to fly up to Annapolis and have our event with the Tito's Filmmaker Lounge and all of these branded activations. And literally within a week or two, the whole team had to, revamp and just do it all virtual, which was extremely nerve-wracking. And there were some bumps along the way because they were first. They were one of the first ones to do it. And, I found myself out on my back porch apologizing with the Tito's in my hand, for some of the technology.
I'm sorry, have a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. There were like birds chirping. I was like, I must have like a fun hat. Like, what can I do? I can't be in my pajamas, So it's interesting going from literally that at that point, everybody was like home. Like there was no anything. We couldn't go to a venue and come live from the venue, right? So now I do feel like there's some hope. We are, again, a year in, and now we have the Annapolis Film Festival again. So I'm back in the same spot a year later. Thank God I have some of my same sponsors, but it's been difficult because the value of not being able to activate in person or do sampling, especially with the beverages, has been, it's been tough. So the value, it's been harder to get the same amount of revenue. And I've had to work with people about, okay, we'll push it off for next year. When we come back and our event is strong, we'll just roll over your sponsorship. And then meanwhile, we'll take care of you. So everybody's different. It's just customizing what they would be happy with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Christy.
Hey, Christy. Yeah. Welcome to the show. Oh, you're on mute. I'll have to get you unmuted.
I requested. Hey, how are you? I was having mic issues. I couldn't hear y'all. Like, you were really staticky. Now I can hear you.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Well,
welcome to the conversation.
So if I miss something, it's because there's some mic issues going on my end.
No worries. No worries. Well, welcome to the conversation, Christy. It's good to have you here with us.
To get back in again because I can still, it's really bad.
All right. Well, we'll carry on, with you here or without you, and when you come back in, we'll bring you back in again.
All right.
So Tracy, could you let us know a little bit about what you do and what One More Sponsor does as a company?
Sure, absolutely. So One More Sponsor helps nonprofit organizations and large events seek and develop and grow corporate partnerships. So most people don't have the bandwidth to actually spend the time to, get sponsors, make sure they're happy, put together a package that makes sense for them, be on site, manage the sponsor, and then really important, the recap so that a sponsor would renew or grow with the organization. So we kind of see ourselves as matchmakers. We have, I have about 20 years of experience.
Like corporate dating?
Yes, kind of like corporate dating. Kind of like when I introduced you to digital graffiti.
That's right.
Like that. Yeah. So yeah, we've been doing it. It'll be, it's 12 and a half years I've had this business, and I came out of publishing, so I already had a lot of relationships established. So yes, we work with anything from large film festivals like the New Orleans Film Festival, which is Oscar qualifying, to the Catalina Film Festival, Annapolis, big music festivals. And then a separate part of our business is all associations and chapters, different chapters of different associations. So we sell the advertising, the sponsorships, the annual packages, and their conference packages for them. And so we're really like an ambassador to the organization. But most recently, we've started doing sponsorship scouting because our sponsors have said, we need to really narrow down who we're supporting. Could you offer this service? So we have been trying to help a big hospital system here in Atlanta. So we were able to kind of narrow down what they were looking for. What could they own from an asset standpoint 4 years from now that would be valuable, based on their criteria of wanting to support social justice, the environment. They have some pillars that we kind of narrowed down for them. So we do have some other things that we do, but I think one of the best things we do is we put together the marketing branding package for the organization to tell their story to sponsors in the language that a sponsor would want to see and hear.
So can you tell us I'm not too sure how much, I think it's fascinating, the whole idea. I didn't have any idea how much work went into sponsorships and, especially in events. I just kind of thought, oh, well, I'm sure that there's sponsorships that go out and it's going to be this much money and this is kind of what they get. But there's so much more that goes into it, especially in an events application. And it would be interesting to kind of hear your take on some of the challenges that you have in sponsoring events, and then some of the transitions that you've made from a live event world into a virtual event world. A lot of the viewers, of course, come from the live events industry, and it would be probably pretty insightful, to have some information regarding that. And, just
Yeah.
like, we're all behind the scenes, right? So we kind of know what's kind of going on behind the scenes, but it'd be really cool to find out what kind of goes on behind the scenes with sponsorships, because, to be honest, it's kind of like a sidebar kind of thing for a lot of us, right?
Right. And so I think what happens is, and one of the reasons we have so many clients is it becomes an afterthought. It becomes like, oh, we have an event coming up and we need sponsors to pay for our platform, or this, or that,
We
and that's
plan to have an event, but we have no idea how we're going to fund it.
Exactly. So that's absolutely. And so managing expectations also would be, well, we need to come up with, we need a way to tell, what makes your event, your organization unique, and then pair that up with the right sponsors. For example, everybody wants to have Coca-Cola as a partner. They could be a small association, they could be a large festival, and it's kind of managing expectations, like that might not be something that's going to happen. But for one thing, they budgeted 2 years ago, for everything they're going to do. So getting into the right budget cycle with the right message, but mostly it's just about the relationships, it's just about who especially now, and not bringing sponsors an opportunity that doesn't fit with what their objectives are. And their objectives can change every single year. It could be a Blue Cross Blue Shield, it could be Cox Communications, where they used to sponsor at New Orleans Film Festival, like Cinema Reset and a VR experience, and then, we had this whole blue carpet, 30 by 30, all these people, trying on Samsung headsets, and we played as one of Christy's favorite clients is Restore the Mississippi Delta, about coastal restoration. So we played, some of their content. We had all their patrons from that nonprofit at the New Orleans Film Festival. So we try to tie everything in together and the best we can. And then just, from Christy's standpoint, without Christy bringing the sponsor message, to elevate that sponsorship message to people that need to see that, makes us, I think, a huge partner for our sponsors, because, they might have a few channels, but, the bandwidth, again, they're usually a nonprofit, or they're usually a smaller regional field sales marketing team that's on site. And they had enough trouble getting the staffing to come, to interact with 2,000 people on opening night. So I think we fill in the gaps wherever we need to. I'm sure there's a million stories of how we jump in and help out literally like anywhere we need to, just to make sure the sponsors are happy and that our festivals are happy.
Oh, I know you went like to the ends of the planet when I came up that first time for scouting out Alice Beach and meeting Brett. And hey, Brett, I got the whole gang back together.
Yeah, so that is a perfect example of an awesome story where I really, part of it is not what we're working on during our actual event. It's we're trying to entertain potential sponsors for the following event during the event as well. So, having you come up, Jeff, and be able to see the event itself and meet the team. And I think I even offered babysitting while you were meeting all
you kind of did. That's a fun little story, because I had to bring my daughter up,
of course,
during that weekend for that first time being at the festival and checking it out, and I didn't really know what to really expect at the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drive almost 8 hours from my home with my 4-year-old, or how old was she? I think she was 4 or 5-year-old daughter at the time, to come and check out this digital projection festival. And I'm like, wow, like what should I expect out of this? Usually they're adult events, and meeting Tracy and Christy there for the first time, and you guys just knocked it right out of the park.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of fun with her too. It was a nice break for me to just enjoy her company on that roof deck. I'll never forget that.
Up to the event sometimes that when you finally get to the event, it's so exciting to be able to share it and to be there and to enjoy the moment. Even though you're working through the event, it's so much fun to see it. It's like you see it come to birth. Like everything is like there. because some of these events you're working on for like a whole year in advance. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I think both of you can know how I get. I get extremely like quiet and nervous before the event happens. And then once it's in full force, it's like this huge relief, right? To be able to see everybody actually enjoying and doing all that. And
it's also a time
so-
for you to let go. I mean, I've seen you in full force during the event as well, and you're like, woohoo!
I don't think so. Oh, and but I would say, it's been really difficult for all of us. And, I just miss seeing Christy, and, these people are like an extension of my team. Like, I can't do my job without them. So to not be able to see them in person and to just, like on the spot to decide what we're going to do, or there's been so many times where like had the New Orleans Film Festival at the same time. We were on the crew of Boo Float going through New Orleans. So we were at a festival that had 30,000 people, right? We had sponsors that were actually sponsoring both. New Orleans Tourism was sponsoring both. And yeah, 100,000 people waiting for the crew of Boo Float, which got canceled. Remember, it got canceled. The whole event got canceled 10 minutes before we were supposed to go pick up the influencers from New York, from the agency, to experience it in full force. These major influencers with a whole family came down, 3 photographers that are like well known, and it was an influencer campaign, and it was canceled. And I have all these clients that are going to ride on the float as a present, kind of, for being such a great client. And I mean, it was insane. It was because the Hard Rock hotel had collapsed, and they couldn't figure out what we're going to do with the parade route, so they canceled it. And then it ended up happening, and they just changed the route a little bit, but we didn't know that, And so then I had to call everybody back and say, it's on, start the PR. Here we go.
Wow. That's
crazy.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, it's insane. You kind of, even though we're meeting virtually right now, and this is amazing, I'm like over the word virtual already. And but
I think we all are. I think we can relate.
Yeah.
I miss seeing people again, and there's just not quite the experience that you have when you have a full audience of somebody you're meeting and greeting. You're going to social events that are full of people, because a lot of the events Tracy just talked about, like New Orleans Film Festival and Crew Boo, we had 10 days of, up in the morning early to every event and speaker engagement, to late nights of, after parties and gatherings and sponsorships, where you're like hosting the sponsors at these after parties because their product is there. It was intense, but, we're always exhausted when we're done, but it's so much fun actually being at that event. And it's been so hard to transition virtually, but it is, it's crucial, because like Annapolis Film Fest, which was something that came to Tracy actually through New Orleans Film Fest, we, went virtual earlier this year with that. So, that was a very big learning curve. Even though really my role doesn't change too much when you say virtual, because I'm behind the scenes anyway.
Because you're virtual in some ways already.
So my role just kind of, is very transparent through this process. But it is hard when you can't speak to somebody like face to face with something going on. If there's an issue that you have to solve, you have to learn. I've had a lot of learning curves this past year, and Annapolis was courageous, being a small festival, and just saying, hey, we're not going to cancel. We're going to go virtual. And, the film festivals have an easier time doing that, but the platforms that you use is all like learning curves for everyone to make sure that they can broadcast in a wide enough area to capture the audience, to make the return on investment worthwhile, and to still feature the filmmaker and still feature these films. There's a double-edged sword. It's kind of, the best of both worlds. I really have been saying this all along when Jeffrey has been doing this broadcast. I just feel like there's such an opportunity right now. Like, this is a time where we will see, I think, brands and sponsors not only embrace that virtual side, but they're going to embrace it when we do go back to live events. There will be an opportunity, because I feel like we've opened up a new audience, people that otherwise might not come to an event, but they really want to know what it's about. They may come to a virtual event before they try to come to a live event, or, so there's going to be an opportunity for people, I think, to buy a virtual ticket and then like a live ticket whenever live events open back up for a concert or something like that. Of course, the rates are going to be different. It's going to look a little different, but I think that you're going to see such an opportunity for sponsors to really jump on board with that.
I think so too. I mean, we saw, last year there was a huge EDM festival that took place virtually that usually takes place in Europe called Tomorrowland. And they normally would attract in the ballpark of about 100,000 people during the weekend. But they were selling tickets virtually, and they were recording up to 2 million people attending during that weekend.
Yes.
So, they exponentially just exploded.
Festival is also a partner of New Orleans Film Festival. So they, of course, they're featured all over with multiple film festivals, and they've been doing that online virtual presentation, as well as trying to open up some of the theaters in these markets as a more socially distant viewing of a film. So it's been an interesting dynamic to see both the socially distant side and the virtual side. Kind of everyone's trying to refigure out how they're doing business. We all got in our comfort zone, and now everything is shaken up, and we got to figure it all out.
So I agree with that. And I think part of what's been so difficult, at least for me, and maybe Christy, for you too, is, when this whole thing happened, all of our events are in different cities. So every single day the rules changed. Every single day it was something different. Like we couldn't be tone deaf. We couldn't do something in DC when everything's happening at the Capitol. Like we have a client that we work with called Women Heart, which is the National Coalition for Women with Heart Disease. So obviously that event got canceled at the Intercontinental in DC because women with heart disease are even more susceptible to COVID. So working with the hotel, trying to get that rescheduled, working with sponsors, letting them turn over their sponsorship for the following year. But I guess just every city, like I would listen to, the mayor of New Orleans, I would listen to the governor of Georgia, and just all these people with different views. Like New Orleans was able to do some outside gatherings, 50 to 100 people. But then the day before they weren't allowed to. And then, so it just changes every single day.
Changing every day. Yeah. I got to notice this morning, we had Infocom, which is the big AV trade show that was scheduled here in Orlando to take place in June. And I received an email, sure enough, this morning saying that it's all been pushed back and postponed now through October. And, there's just so much uncertainty right now for events in the event space. It's kind of crazy. There's definitely a lot of hope being put onto the fall and things kind of coming back into a live environment as the vaccines spread throughout the different communities and different states and, different geographic areas. But it's pretty much like we're still rolling the dice. Nobody really has that magic ball that can say, everything is going to be good to go, in the fall.
Different, and we do, like Tracy said, that's kind of also something that's transparent for me, because I'm always keeping up, as when you're doing media for events that are in multiple states throughout the year, I am always paying attention to what's going on in that city that's surrounding it, because I have to be sure that I'm capturing what's going on surrounding. For instance, Tracy brought up when the collapse happened in New Orleans and things were changing. We knew about that kind of the day before we went in, or the day we were going in for that event. So, it was one of those things that I constantly have to keep an eye on those things. So you're not just when you're doing the social media side or the marketing side, you're not just paying attention to promoting that one individual person
Absolutely.
or event that you're working for. You're actually looking at the entire community surrounding the event and what is going down in that city, and what things you need
Absolutely.
people in for that event. And like Tracy said, you're also kind of watching out because you want to see who's interested, who's new, who might be the sponsor for next year. So you're kind of you're doing both.
Yeah, you're doing your homework at the same time. You're working in the current moment, but you're doing your homework for the future.
Absolutely. So, like when we were at the Hub in New Orleans for the film festival, we had potential sponsors for the following year come through and see the footprint and see what our sponsors were doing, and see the creativity and the ideas that we had. And so obviously some of those things have changed. I would say personally, I've seen a trend towards some of my sponsors wanting to attach to a meaningful program, let's say, that would support students and teachers and things like that. Or so like Cox Communications, Christy, like that would always do, the footprint at the Hub and the VR, and now they're supporting the community partnership program, which gets tickets into the hands of teachers and students in some poorer areas of New Orleans. And so I definitely have seen a huge shift in terms of, people are trying to support certain causes that they care about, but it's a little less rigid on ROI, where before every recap report we did was like, how many impressions, how many, we had to deliver X, Y, and Z, and then we had to recap it and photos and social media and stories. And I think, I don't know, it seems like expectations have changed a little bit with certain things.
Yeah, I've been noticing, there's been a lot of trend in people sponsoring a lot more organizations based on, based on just basically, it's been really interesting, but people helping other people through sponsoring things that are kind of really important, that kind of have gotten neglected a little bit, I think. And when we're kind of running at full steam and, you're not really paying a whole lot of attention about the rest of the world, really. And, this last year has really, I think, helped open the eyes to a lot of different companies and a lot of different people. A lot of people in our industry have had to move out from doing, what they've always loved doing, and have had to reinvent themselves and find, new outlets and new ways to be able to bring in income and working in different industries. And, it's been really interesting just to kind of see how people have transitioned and changed, but also see these companies sponsoring, other companies that are have always been very much in need, so it's,
no, I agree. There's been a huge spike. Huge spike. And like for Amplify Decatur, which is a music festival that supports homelessness, we were able to cancel the event, but most of the people allowed their ticket to be a donation directly still to the nonprofit that helps with homelessness. So we were, shocked as a board member. It was amazing. And again, we're so grateful. And, but from the sponsorship standpoint, that doesn't happen. They don't just say like, here's the money, right? Like you can keep it as a donation. So mostly what we had to do was just move it over to the following year. I would say, 80% of it was just moved with the hope that even if it's an April event, we'll have it in October. And it's interesting. So strategically, I'm trying to partner like a music festival with a book festival and with an arts festival, and let's just all do it in October together. This is kind of not official yet, but there's just no dates available for one, right? And there's so many different arts events that do complement each other and they don't step on each other's toes. So I think we'll see a trend in organizations that never work together partnering up because of need, and just playing a little nicer together, like in terms of, we're not competitors. We're all in here trying to do some of the same things, and our target audience is exactly the same. So I think it all comes back down to whether it's virtually or in person, how do we engage our target audience in a way that's meaningful and that the sponsor can be proud of, and they can actually promote their involvement through social media, through marketing, through all of their avenues. Because sometimes without the sponsor resharing the content Christy might, come up with, without their platform, ours are smaller. I mean, if you're Audubon Society, your platform is humongous, right, compared to ours. So I think we really lean on our sponsors to share the creative things that we do come up with, and we try to make it easy for them to just be able to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brett's actually got a question.
Sure.
I just wanted to bring Brett in here.
Sure.
And I also wanted to take an opportunity to also say hi to Jason. Jason, I've worked with for years and years and years, way back when I was living in Atlanta. So I just wanted to say hi to Jason.
Hi, Brett.
With Magnum, yeah, I'm familiar with that company, definitely.
What is the question from Brett?
So Brett, I was just saying, tremendous company. My microphone's been going in and out as well, so it's been fun tackling that back behind the scenes. But Brett was asking, do you advocate certain packages of sponsorship, social justice programs, etc., or are sponsors stepping up with what they want to sponsor and you help them find the right platform or program?
So I would say, yeah, it's definitely both, but I would say all the traditional ways of selling sponsorship that in the olden days that were like gold, silver, bronze are gone. Right now it's just, coming up with a deep dive into the data. Most nonprofits don't know who they're reaching with their e-newsletters, their website, their social media. So we actually go in and look at all that. We look at what percentage of men, are on the Facebook channel, or women, or we have to come up with it all in order to put together the package of who that is. So I would say that's more important now than ever, is the data. And in terms of sponsorships, every single one I've worked on this past year is custom. And it's a brainstorming session about what they are interested in, and then coming up with something creative. So I would say it probably takes twice the amount of time to come up with something really creative, but usually if it matches up properly, it works really well. But like I said earlier, we are also working on the sponsor side of things. So working with hospitals and some of our other smaller sponsors to seek the things that they're looking for. So we'll come back to them and say, you wanted more social justice, environment, education, whatever your pillars are. We'll look at all the ones they currently have. Let's say they have 150 that they already support. And we'll pick out 4 new ones that would complement what they're trying to accomplish and that they would own in terms of brand, say 4 years from now. And part of it is also seeing where their competitors are. Like if you're a hospital system and another hospital system is sponsoring something that you really want to sponsor, maybe steering them away from that and steering them into something that makes more sense that they can actually own. So people are looking to own programs and own different things that before they wasn't a big need for that. So I don't know if that answers the question, Brett, or not. I hope so. Thank you.
I think you tackled it pretty well.
Okay.
The other thing that I found interesting is, Susie and I and Kayla attended an event here in Orlando called what was it? Dazzling Lights this Christmas. It's like Dazzling Lights at the at Lou Gardens here in Orlando, and the main sponsor there, funny enough, was Advent Care or Advent Health.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all.
Huge huge health company sponsoring a very artistic,
absolutely,
social event. And it was really interesting to see those transitions, because a lot of the times for those events, you would have seen the more traditional sponsors, like alcohol companies and soda companies and, some of the companies that I guess cater to, the audiences that you would expect to be attending. But it was also a very family-driven event. So I think kind of touching upon, what Brett was asking a little bit as well, is a lot of it just kind of relates back to catering to the demographics for the event that you're sponsoring, right?
Right. And from the sponsor standpoint is making sure that you're targeting that audience, and if it's multiple audiences during the course of an event or a year of just online programming, which things can people attach to more? Is there a specific film like we did with Restore Christie, that makes sense that they can play off of with their, patrons and things like that. So sometimes the demographics, even within an organization or within an event, are different. It might be one opening night is really more only for filmmakers, or the red carpet and things like that, or have a different audience than sitting in the theater for a film that you could actually purchase a la carte versus as a pass. So there's different levels of pass holders and patrons. So I guess mirroring the two up is the puzzle, really, because if you don't do it properly, then you have no chance of it being a great partnership. So you have to be honest with people too. You have to say, like, that's not going to work. I don't think that's going to work. Like, that's not going to be a good fit, and walk away from the money sometimes, because I'd rather have, a relationship with Chevron for 10 years down the road than try to sell them something that I know that it's not going to work out for them, or whoever the sponsor might be.
Right.
So
that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
So
I wanted to. Sorry, go ahead, Christy.
Aligning is key. Aligning everything. I mean, it's huge in any campaign, whether it's sponsorships or if it's an online strategy that you're doing, or if it's even your social media. I think that if you're not aligned properly, you're not going to get the return.
So
I agree.
I wanted to pitch this a little bit too, and talk a little bit about the marketing side of things, Christy, because it's, I knew you, of course, through events, and through Tracy, really ultimately was kind of the one that connected us together. And I'll never forget that night with you holding my phone for, I think, like 2 hours straight. Well, I decided it was going to be a great idea to do a virtual tour. My first time, like, really going live and showing the whole festival to everybody for like 2 hours.
Oh my God, I'll tell you though, I got some great feedback from your parent company, from Christy at that time, Christy, your company, that just said, like, Tracy was so great and her team on the ground getting all the deliverables done. And so, because Christy, I remember her saying, like, this really wasn't a part of my job. I'm like, I know, but please. And it was amazing, and you did a great job. But yeah, you were like holding something.
So we bonded in that 2 hours with sweat and heat and yellow flies and everything come with Florida weather.
It was quite the night. I could see Susie bouncing her head like, yep. She remembers. She was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was my camera assistant as well.
Yeah, she's nodding away.
I know she literally, like, jumped in and fit right in. We were like, we love her.
Yes.
I've been trying to, bringing her back year and year again, but it's just not the same without you guys both there.
Oh.
I'm there on a different level sometimes with Brett now. So, where I was going in with Tracy now, like I've shifted a bit in helping Brett, the curator of digital graffiti. So that that's been a different, and of course that's changed this year too. It's not virtual, but it is a drive-through experience, and not a walkthrough, and not an actual event within the walls of Alice Beach, but it'll be a drive-through experience. So
yeah, it's definitely going to be a much different dynamic.
Yeah.
Should definitely be fun.
Yeah. I always love seeing the talent and the artists that come to that event. So it's so much fun to see, worldwide artists come in to this one little town in Northwest Florida and do their thing. So
yeah, that's cool. Super cool. I think that it's going to be really interesting though to see the transition. Like, I've seen a lot of really great drive-throughs recently. Like, people have been going they've been going really over the top.
Like the red carpet drive-throughs. Yeah,
the red carpet drive-throughs, and even like this past Christmas, a lot of the more traditional companies. They just said, you know what, we're just going to like participate in these huge drive-throughs, and they turned into these great big, amazingly produced events, and the art that kind of came through, and a lot of them was just incredible. And even Holly, who's been on the show, she was showing off some work with some drive-through stuff, and it's been really taken off. And I think that's like the most amazing thing with digital art is you could pretty much put it just about anywhere. I mean, we could pop up, a whole festival if we wanted to in our neighborhood, mapping people's homes and stuff, and it's still safe for people to attend.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, what I try to do, what I like doing the most, where I get energy, is introducing people to each other. So, with Fallon, who's the executive director of the New Orleans Film Festival, coming to be a judge at Digital Graffiti, and then in seeing some of the work of Cameron and some of the artists that Brett had selected, and then seeing that in New Orleans at the New Orleans Film Festival hub, and seeing some of that work, that's very satisfying for me to see that I can not only like match certain things together, but add value and add to an event, right? Whether it be a musician, adding a musician to one of our events, or one of our, whatever it might be, but just, I don't know. I love like, I want to have like a posse of all of us, and every time we have an event, we all go, like every time. Sponsored by Happier Camper. So cute.
Yes, I love that sponsor, by the way. That was a fun little sponsorship, and I miss Sarita. So
yeah, me too.
In the drive-through theater thing that you're talking about, Jeffrey, it just reminded me that in September, Catalina Film Fest did a drive-through red carpet for their virtual presentation, but they had a socially distanced drive-through red carpet that they did for their event, which was pretty interesting to see that shift in what they're doing and everything.
Yeah. So we were supposed to be, on a yacht heading to Catalina Island with Topo Chico, celebrating Christie's 50th, with Topo Chico Water as the sponsor, who sponsors many of our other events as well. And we were really looking forward to that. So, they definitely pivoted, Jeff, and they did a great job, but it was just, it was a depressing, I think for me anyways, it was a pretty depressing year. I had to kind of psych myself up every day to come to work, and just changed my lifestyle. I was always on a plane traveling, Jeffrey, as you were, and Christy, and literally it was like I went from traveling 24/7 to just being home, so I moved my offices from Buckhead to Decatur and got some cool office space near my house, within a mile of my house, changed my lifestyle, started cooking, started getting healthier. Cooking like I never did. I always ate out. I was always entertaining, people. And so from that standpoint, there's been some positives, I've been oil painting more. I've been seeing my dog, but it's been pretty depressing. There's no energy from, a lot of other people around.
Yeah, that's been definitely challenging.
It could be depressing, and it has been at times, but I also feel like people have had to start focusing inward and home and on self. And I think that's been kind of a good positive out of 2020. If we can pull anything positive out of it, it's definitely that.
The power to create. Everybody's been creating in ways they never did before. I mean, whether it be new music or art or anything, it's just been, I think everybody realizes the importance of entertainment and movies and books and art. And, I know that I've pulled up a lot of
self-health, it's been a really great time for people to take a step back and, enjoy the great outdoors a little bit, and be able to kind of reconnect with family.
I agree.
I mean, in some cases that part's been hard, but it's also, I mean, I've spoken to my parents a lot and my brothers, and, I've had a really wonderful, it's actually been really wonderful being at home, this past year and not being on a plane every week. I sometimes wonder if I'm going to wake up the next morning because, Susie, I think, is ready to kill me at some point from being home for so long and just like being here. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to wake up sometimes the next day. But yeah, it's been pretty generally pretty good.
That's so funny. I love coming to my office. I'm happy to like have some cool office space. I thought about working from home, and for me, I just did not want to do it.
By the way, if I go missing after this episode, you guys will know.
Here's the proof. Yeah, I know how to find Susie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She goes, "We're friends. They'll help with the shovel." That is not nice.
It's not nice at all. Tell Susie it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We could just like, borrow you for a little while and then return you. That might be nicer.
Yeah, maybe in pieces.
Yes.
The problem with having so many creative minds all together in one spot. Maybe my luck will be that you guys will just be overly creative while I sneak away.
We'll just get sidetracked with new ideas.
Get completely sidetracked.
Totally.
Just like we have right now. So we're running out of time. But Christy, I wanted to touch a little bit with you about some of the challenges that you've had. I mean, you've been doing a lot of stuff promoting social media. You've done a great job in helping me out with Ahead of the Curve, which has been really awesome. It would be great to hear, some of the stuff that you've been doing and some of the things that you've been kind of experimenting and working with from a marketing standpoint. Because marketing is one of those things I think that gets so overlooked, and it really does make you stand out as a brand. It makes you stand out even as a person. There's been a lot of courses actually that have been taking place over this past year about people, being out front online and how to really kind of step up your social presence and how important it is in this day and age. So I would love to hear a little bit about your opinions on that kind of stuff as well.
Sure. Well, first, to be in marketing now, marketing is such a vague term. People don't understand what's behind the scenes in marketing. And I think Tracy mentioned musicians and art and how it got us through. And watching, if you watch a musician be branded, you'll learn really quick how big marketing is, because they have publicists and they have camera people and they have their tours and their merchandise and everything that goes along with what marketing is, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're creating this product to sell. And one of the things that I've noticed that inspired me this year, that a lot of my music friends are doing, is they're learning how to be their own camera people. They're learning how to do their lighting in their studios. Their studios are becoming their venues because they're having to do virtual concerts in order to continue to flow. And, for me, what people need to understand is every piece that you do in your marketing is requiring something also from you. And so, just like this, you have to have, just to do an hour talk or a Zoom meeting, you want to make sure you have no distractions, lighting, your camera
check.
And your mics working, and it's
check.
You've got the one person
kind of check.
Exactly. And then a lot of I've been taking pieces and parts of projects too, because I can do a wide range of things. I write for a couple of publications. I picked that up because that's something, again, that I can do from home. I'm not traveling a lot, so I don't have to worry about a writing deadline right now. So I picked up, writing again. And then, one of the things I'm doing is really trying to brush up my skills on that next level marketing, that next audience marketing. I'm playing around with watching, and observing in TikTok, and some of the other platforms that are out there that are being birthed, because these audiences are what's next. And these sponsors are all over TikTok. So, and that's, you
So
know,
it's kind
that's
of
a
it's kind
huge
of the hot platform right now, right?
Mhm.
platform. So I've been watching that. I'm actually getting ready to start a YouTube campaign, I think, with another client of mine who wants to put some snippets out of like educational materials of what his business is, to try to build and boost the overall social platform, and because they all work together. It's not just about a post on Facebook or a post and a hashtag here on Instagram. It is really about a full circle of things that you're doing. You know, are you out there? Do you have, you know, do you have some publicity that's happening in on your behalf? You know, whether it's an article about what you do. Um, you know, for events, going back to Tracy, I mean, when you think about collaborative marketing, and I've always said 30a.com and Alice Beach, they all, everyone along the 30A corridor seems to have that down. They know how to complement each other with their events and really cross market, integrate their marketing so that that word is getting out on every single event, and how they're attached to it. You know, and I feel like that's such a really good example of why it works in that area. And even though that's a really small area, you're talking about a 20-mile stretch of road between Destin and Panama City, and every event that goes on down there is impacted very widely because they understand how to integrate marketing and how to bring in the key players that will make those events successful. And I think that's exactly what Tracy talked about when she was talking about Amplify Decatur and possibly, you know, some of the other things in Decatur with the Arts Alliance there, and how to bring those events, you know, together, because they all are really fighting in the same community, but not against each other. So they're, you know, their overall strategy together is so much stronger than it is if you're just trying to be a solo speaking for yourself. You know,
Yeah.
they always say that good marketing is when you speak for yourself, but good PR is when you get other people to speak for you. And that hits the nail on the head for me. And it's like, and Jeffrey, you do it well with the head of the curve. Like, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, you decided you wanted to bring people together in your industry, that you are educating people through a platform that is now, you know, time out of your week and around your job to get this done every week. And it's built a consistency, and that's key too. Some people, you know, they'll get on social media as a business and they don't realize how key it is to be consistent throughout the year on whatever they do. So, you know, if you're a professional that does a partial season of work and you're not advertising the other part of that season, you're in trouble, because you're doing Band-Aid marketing. Then you're not really building that consistent message that says, I'm here, I'm present, I'm doing these things, you know. So it really inspired me this year, because I saw small businesses that weren't really on board with even social media, that they decided, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to need this because I have to sell products. Because I don't have foot traffic now, I've got to have thumb traffic. And so I think that's a huge key, is that, you know, you can't stop something in the middle of, I mean, you just can't quit. You have to find that new strategy. You have to continue to find where you're missing your dots and make that happen. Because, you know, you can be a terrible singer, and if you have good marketing and you have a good marketing hive around you, you can be out there and be making, you know, billions of dollars or millions of dollars on the road and have all this, you know, attention on you. And, you know, it's key. So I feel like if you are not investing in marketing, and that is an investment, it's not an expense, it's problem, because it's kind of like back in school when they told you to show your work. You have to show your work. You have to show what you've been doing. What are you working on? Who are those collaborative partners that you're with? Who are the sponsors, as Tracy, said earlier? Who is going to make this hive around you successful, so that you can say who you are and give that consistent message throughout your year about your business, about your product, or whatever it is that you have out there. And if people don't know about it, they just don't know. And so part of what I do is wearing many hats, and it can be very stressful at times. Tracy mentioned earlier, when she gets to a live event, she gets quiet, and I'm usually quiet and over in a corner somewhere. And she can tell you that, like, sometimes I have to pull away and say, no, I've got to go focus on this. I can't do this because, especially when we're like at a live event and I'm doing live coverage, you've got every single hashtag community, what's working, and you got to get it out there, and you got to get it now. It's a now when you're doing a live event. So, but
Yeah.
no, but
it's a time. Time is critical, and it's always in the moment.
It is. It really is. And then later, usually, it's going to be played over and over again somewhere, or it's going to come up again. So you do want to get it right. To Christy's point, Christy is really good about her images are very artistic. So like for Instagram, just whatever she sees as like a photographer and a writer is different than something that I would see, right? So the images are more attractive to certain groups of people, so I just have to, from the beginning, just trust her. She worked at an art gallery. She has been around artists, like let her do what she's good at, because she is very good at what she does. So, it always is just, I guess, helpful to be surrounded by people that have different talents, right? And just to let people do what they're good at. And, I'm very lucky to have people like Christy and Amy on my team, and Greg, who does all the design for our clients, and just the whole group of people together. And Jeffrey, I would include you in that, because I go to you for things like, what do you recommend for this? Like, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have people to go to. I don't know everything, but I definitely know who does. So
yeah, if we can't find the answer, we usually have someone in our team that knows, or they have the experience in an area that they can certainly help. And I love like Tracy's team has become like they've become my team, because I'm a solo person right now in my business, and I have to collaborate with a lot of people. I have to collaborate with a lot of businesses, but to collaborate with Tracy on events has been huge, and it's been so consistent because we do work so many events together. And it's been nice to have like Greg in our arsenal, and and it's a lot of fun too, because you have to mesh with the people that you're doing business with, and also you're friends with. So it's
yeah, I think that's definitely so important. And having good synergies with different companies, as Tracy was mentioning, is kind of the way that things are going. And it's so important to be able to pull on those relationships, and know that you've got a bunch of different types of expertise at your fingertips. I mean, the three of us are on here right now, and I call on you two ladies whenever I have any issues. And of course, having Christy helping with the marketing campaigns for Ahead of the Curve, I would have never really known had it, again, not been for us meeting each other during Digital Graffiti. So it's just so important. I think that's a great takeaway to kind of wrap up the show, about having these synergies and these connections, and to not be afraid to call on people for support and help, because we're all here. We all work in different ways, and don't be afraid to leverage some of the expertise out of some of your friends and some of your connections. And even I've been noticing how supportive even companies are that are really acquaintances during these times. Like
Mhm.
there's been quite a few people and companies that I don't know very well, and I've reached out to this year to get some input, get some input from them on different things and
Mhm.
get some feedback. And they've been tremendous, tremendously responsive and super supportive. And I think you'd really be surprised about what feedback you'll get and what support you'll get from even people that you don't know very well. So don't be afraid, get out there and ask questions. I think that's so important. Well, Tracy and Christy, we've kind of come to the end of our time. I just wanted to thank you both so much for being on the show with me today, or being part of the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Christy
Thanks,
was
Jeff.
sporting an awesome Ahead of the Curve mug, so you guys can get that on our swag at our
I
swag
want
area.
one. Awesome. Love it.
So that's aotc.one/swag. If you want to reach out to Tracy, you can check her out at oneMoreSponsor.com, and you can reach her at her email address, tracy@oneMoreSponsor.com. And then the same goes for Christy. If you want to get some more info on Christy or some of the services that she provides, you can check out curate.marketing, and her email, christy@curate.marketing. Next week, I have my guest, Eric Gazillo with me from Quince Imaging. That's going to be a really cool show. We'll be talking a lot about experiential events, and the company that he works with specifically do a lot of technology within the sports industry, and they help promote a lot of different sports and do a lot of the technology and a lot of the different things to do with the sporting events. So that'll be really, really cool. So thanks a lot, ladies. I've really appreciated having you with me here. It's been a lot of fun.
We had fun. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Talk to you soon.
Big virtual hugs to both of you.
Yes.
And to Brett and everybody that was able to view the show today. So as I say every week, stay ahead of the curve, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks.